When I was younger, especially as a child, I often had this strange feeling of emptiness. It could happen when I was alone or even in the middle of a crowd. I'd feel a kind of stillness inside, as if my mind went quiet for a moment. I wasn't thinking or daydreaming, just quietly aware of a kind of space in front of me. Friends would say I looked like I was zoning out, but I wasn't. The feeling never lasted long, but it came back often. Sometimes, after sitting in that state for a while, I'd see things floating in the air, shapes or lights I couldn't clearly identify or look at directly. I thought something might be wrong with my eyes, but when I asked around, no one else saw what I saw. Later, when I started learning about Buddhist teachings, I realized what I was experiencing might be something called samatha, or calmness of mind. The floating images were probably just illusions. Because I was already familiar with that sense of stillness, I used it as a starting point when I began meditating more seriously. I didn't have a teacher at the time, so I just followed what felt natural, quietly resting the mind in emptiness. It brought a sense of calm and comfort, so I stayed there for quite a while. But eventually, I started to feel stuck. Nothing seemed to happen beyond that blankness. I wasn't sure what to do next, or even if I was doing it right. I also didn't realize that I was holding on to that emptiness, thinking I'd found something important, like I had arrived. But deep down, I didn't fully understand what I was doing or what effect it had on my mind. Later on, I got to hear a teaching from Luang Po Promote. He said that meditating by just sitting with emptiness isn't the right path. Instead, he suggested observing the movements of the mind, especially the way emotions and thoughts come in pairs, happiness and suffering, liking and disliking, wanting and not wanting, anger and calm. Rather than trying to control or push things away, the key is to simply watch these feelings rise and fall on their own without interfering. That talk changed everything for me. I realized I had been practicing from a sense of self, trying to hold on to emptiness, thinking that was the goal. But that grasping itself was the problem. After that, I shifted my approach. I started observing my inner reactions, watching how emotions came and went, trying not to control them. I noticed that true emptiness isn't something you force. It happens on its own, naturally, when you stop clinging. There's no need to make it happen, it just arises and fades like everything else. I also noticed something else. When my mindfulness was strong, I could see my thoughts and emotions clearly. I could catch them before they turned into something overwhelming. But on days when I wasn't very mindful, I felt confused or off balance. So I learned how important it is to keep training mindfulness and to keep observing gently and steadily. Eventually, I understood that happiness and suffering don't come from outside. They start and end in the mind. As beginners, we can start by just watching these emotions, seeing that they rise and fall, that we don't control them, and that they're not permanent. The more we understand this, the more freedom we start to feel. For a long time, I thought starting with emptiness was a good thing, and in some ways it was. It helped me calm down. But I also learned that staying in that blank, still space can become a trap if you're not mindful. If we don't see through it, it can stop the mind from developing any deeper. Real transformation comes not just from being peaceful, but from being curious, consistent, and willing to see the truth of how things really work. Otherwise, We may feel calm on the surface, but stay stuck in the same old patterns without even realizing it.